So when people ask me, Tommy, how do I know if I can actually afford to buy a new car? And when I say new car, I don't just mean brand new car, you pay retail for it. I mean, for example, a car that is new to you, but you actually want it. And we always know, everyone knows exactly, if I had the money, here's the car that I would actually want to buy right now. And for me, it's actually the Lexus RX 350 2019. And if I actually, went crazy, I would want the latest one, obviously. But that's the car I think about when I actually think about buying it. But then the question comes into play. How do I know if I can afford this car, which goes for around almost $40,000? The answer is, I just use a simple rule called the 10% rule. And in this video, we're actually going to break down exactly how it works, why it works, and when actually to ignore the rule. Now that kind of sounds crazy because I'm telling you to use a rule, but sometimes it is okay to ignore it. In this video, I'm going to tell you why I ignore it at a certain point and why it makes sense to actually follow it when you actually want to, okay? It's kind of weird, but in this video, you're going to fully understand it, I promise, okay? Well, not promise. You'll see by the end, so don't believe me, but you'll see by the end, okay, guys? And as always, like this video on top of also subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified. Now, the first thing is, guys, okay? Tommy, what exactly is the 10% rule? The answer is the 10% rule is very simple. It's the car that you actually buy cannot be more than 10% of your net worth. Now, some people have very high net worths and they're going to say, wow, this is a great rule because I'm not going to justify buying a crazy expensive car. Now, some people have no net worth and they go crazy like, yo, I am not going to be able to buy absolutely anything because my net worth is negative or non-existent. That's fine too. And that's why I'm saying it's a good rule to have, but it's not a rule you always want to follow. And I'm going to tell you when to use it and when not to use it. So now, at both extremes here, let's say you have a crazy net worth. You're worth $1 million. Does that mean you can go ahead and buy a $100,000 vehicle? Follow the 10% rule, it means yes. Now, does that mean you should? The answer is probably not. You don't really need a $100,000 vehicle, okay? Doesn't make any sense. Now, if your net worth is $4, does that mean you go out there looking for a 4-penny or 40-cent car? The answer is you're not gonna find one, okay? So the common rule is, okay, you want to utilize a 10% rule as a basis, but you also want to think about the car I want to buy is the car I can afford to pay for in cash. Then the same question was to play, Tommy, what if I don't have any cash? Then the answer is you save up money to buy the car you actually want, and on top of that, you sell things around that you actually don't need. And again, the car you want is not always the car you're going to be able to actually own. For example, okay, if your net worth is $4, you can't go ahead and buy a $40,000 car. If you're worth, for example, $500,000, you probably should not be focusing on buying, for example, a $40,000 car, because although you could buy a $50,000 car, it's probably not the best use of your money because you're still probably not fully financially free, okay? That's the whole idea. So you have to use, for example, common sense and put yourself into a space to say, hey, I could do this and not be financially crippled, but should I do it? That's the big question. So although a Lexus 2019 that costs $40K might not be the car for you, well, the car that you could probably afford might be maybe a 2006 Honda CR-V for $8,000, okay? And this car has, I think, below 200,000 miles. It's actually a pretty solid car, reliable too, okay? Now for some of you guys, this might actually be a crazy expensive car. It might mean, Tommy, I still can't afford, for example, a $8,000 car. It's a high price to pay. Well, the car you might be able to afford might be a 2002 Toyota Corolla that costs $3,000. Now, for some people, this might be too expensive. And the answer is you might be able to go out there and find a $1,000 beater car or a $700 car. But the point is, the best car for you is the car you can afford to pay for in cash. Now, Tommy, when is it okay for me to go ahead and borrow money to actually buy a car? The answer is, there's this lady, her name is Zuzi. She's also into finance, and she says, you can buy a car and finance it for 3 years. That's the car you want to buy. The car you can actually finance in 3 years. And this allows you, obviously, to buy something nicer because although you might not have $8,000 to buy this car, you probably can break that down and pay that in 3 years and be done fully paid off, and you can actually buy a nice car, okay? But for me personally, it's not something I would do because I don't want to get into debt. So it's not something I can actually recommend to you. So if you want to do it, you can do it. But would I recommend it? The answer is no. And that's why I'm telling you not to do it, okay? But it's up to you to actually decide. But that's the common rule. It's the 10% rule, and it's very simple. And it comes down to, hey, what can you afford to pay for in cash? And my entire goal when it comes to actually buying a car, it's not to buy the car I want. It's to buy the car that I can actually afford at the moment. To actually own a car is the most important thing. Not to actually lease a car, not to actually be financing a car, to actually own a vehicle. So that's why here's a personal example. Here's my example. Tell me, how did you apply this rule? The answer is, I could have probably bought, when I bought my first car, a car for like $50,000. If you do reverse math, that means I had a net worth of about like $500,000 or so. But did I go ahead and buy a $50,000 car? The answer is no. I bought a $9,000 Toyota Prius. Now that would mean, hey, Tommy, you actually went far below. The answer is yes, because a car is just a toaster. It takes you from point A to point B. I don't need anything fancy at the moment. Plus, when you get your first car, you're learning. You're going to hit things. You're going to crash. You're going to do dumb things, okay? So you probably don't want to buy the car of your dreams for your first car. It makes no sense at all, okay? So that was my first car. Now, do I regret it? The answer is yes, absolutely. I regret getting that 2014 Toyota Prius with less than 100,000 miles with low gas consumption. And the answer is because I thought it was a good deal, but it was a terrible deal because those cars are very expensive to actually fix, okay, when things go wrong. So if I could do it all over again, I would probably buy, again, a car below $10,000, but probably like a Honda Civic or a Toyota Corolla or a Mazda, something like that, okay? Same concept, same price, but this way I can buy a car that's easier to fix, less expensive to fix, and less complicated. That's the idea. But I would not say, hey, I regret buying my little Toyota because I could have bought something more expensive. The answer is no. So that's my whole thing. So when am I actually going to go ahead and buy the car of my dreams? When it doesn't hurt to lose, for example, half this money in less than for example, like 5 years, because cars appreciate. So when you're actually fully financially free, which by the way, I'm financially free, but I want to build a massive moat around my finances to be like, hey, it's almost impossible to destroy this, okay? So that's what I kind of want, okay? So I have the stocks, now I want some real estate. I want some more passive income that way. So once I have that stuff completed, if I want to buy something like nicer or whatever, I might do it. But do I have to? The answer is no. So again, use this rule of thumb wisely. Don't be an idiot. Okay, so it's kind of like a rule of thumb to make sure that wherever you are, you're not going to basically heavily expose yourself. And even if you're broke and your net worth is $4, just buy the car you can afford to pay for in cash. If you want to finance it, I don't recommend it. Buy something, buy a beater. You buy a beater, you save up cash for like 3 years or 2 years or 1 year, you can buy something nicer. You can keep upgrading your cars. And then you can actually upgrade to the car you can actually afford. But by that point, you actually can afford it. That's the first thing. You can actually, for example, have it with no debt. That's a great thing. And you actually did it like in a manageable way without the debt. Okay, guys? And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Comment down below because I know everyone has their car. Comment down below. What's the car you actually want? How much does it cost? And then how much does your net worth need to be? Now, just for fun here, because I know sometimes math gets complicated or whatever, it's not that complicated, okay? So if the car you actually want is, let's say, $50,000, like a lot of folks, just divide it by 0.10. Whatever it is, just divide it by 0.10. And that's going to tell you exactly how much it needs to be worth to follow this rule. So it's that simple. So some people out there, they want a Nissan GTR. That's like a $9,000 car. Well, divide that by 0.10. That's a $900 net worth. Okay, that's the way I think about things, guys. Okay, but thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. Comment down below. And as always, guys, long-term team officially out.